Шановні освітяни, укотре ви маєте можливість обирати, за якими підручниками навчатимуться ваші учні. Конкурс підручників уже розпочато, і невдовзі ви обиратимете навчально-методичне забезпечення для своєї школи. Видавнича група «Основа» цього року працює над 4 підручниками, зокрема з англійської мови. Пропонуємо вам дізнатися більше про цей підручник та оцінити його. Результати експертного оцінювання чекаємо вже на початку березня. Якщо наш підручник буде рекомендовано Міністерством освіти та науки України, ви зможете за нього проголосувати. Автори підручника – фахівці-практики, які мають багаторічний досвід викладання англійської мови не лише в Україні, а й за кордоном. Підручник побудовано з урахуванням часу, який передбачено для проведення семестрового контролю за аудіювання, говоріння, читання та письма. Акцент зроблено на реалізації компетентнісно орієнтованого підходу до навчання. Підручник цілком самодостатній. Потреби у використанні будь-яких додаткових матеріалів немає. Усі матеріали автентичні та сучасні, адаптовані відповідно до рівня вимог чинної програми з британських джерел – преси, радіо, інтернет-блогів, рекламних та інших оголошень. Виконання більшості завдань підручника передбачає застосування компетентнісного підходу, критичний аналіз певної проблеми, обговорення її в парі, групі або команді, пошук розв'язання проблеми та обґрунтування своєї точки зору. Онлайн-підтримка, яка надає можливість завантажити аудіододаток до підручника, а також виконувати тренувальні вправи та експрес-перевірку навчальних досягнень учнів у режимі онлайн. Інтерактивний додаток – це онлайн-тести за матеріалами підручника видавничої групи «Основа». Усі матеріали невдовзі буде розміщено на сайті bookosnova.com.ua у відкритому доступі. Онлайн-тести доповнюють можливість перевірки знань учнів в інтерактивному режимі. Ми не обмежуємося стандартними тестами. Серед варіантів завдань ви знайдете такі, як хронологія, відповідність, випадні списки, інтерактивні картинки. Завдання доповнено графічним, флеш, відео та аудіосупроводом. Проходження онлайн-тесту можливо як на стаціонарному комп'ютері, так і на пристроях персональної електроніки, планшетах та смартфонах. Ми надаємо можливість учителю вести статистику за відповідями учнів. Інтерактивні доповнення до підручника допоможуть у цікавій формі перевірити знання учнів з певної теми підручника. Усі тести складено відповідно до частин підручника. Кожне питання тесту вміщено в окремий блок, а кожен блок може містити додаткову інформацію. Це і графіка, і відео, і аудіосупровід, також флеш-додатки. Тож запрошуємо вас до користування. Чому слід обрати саме нас? Видавнича група «Основа» – це вибір учителів протягом 15 років, лідер на ринку педагогічної преси та навчально-методичної літератури. Ми забезпечуємо вчителів необхідною методичною літературою, гарантуємо якість та змістовність наших матеріалів. Надаємо повну інформаційну та методичну підтримку і гарантуємо доставку до кожної школи. Підручник на 100% практичний, сучасний, актуальний. За ним буде зручно працювати і вчителеві, і учню. Звісно, щоб обрати підручник, вам необхідно переглянути оригінал-макет. Очікуйте у вільному доступі з березня на нашому сайті osnova.com.ua або на сайті репозиторію repository.inzo.gov.ua. Нагадуємо, що всі необхідні посилання ви можете знайти під цим відео. Якщо у вас виникли запитання, телефонуйте до видавництва за телефоном 057 731 96 35 або за номером гарячої лінії 0800 505 212 безкоштовно з мобільних та стаціонарних телефонів України. Виникли запитання? Надсилайте їх на електронну адресу osnova.com.ua@gmail.com. Дякуємо за увагу! Ваш вибір дуже важливий, адже ви обираєте підручник, за яким працюватимете з 1 вересня 2017 року зі своїми учнями. Обирайте найкраще видання для себе.
Good morning, dear colleagues. I'm glad to greet you at this webinar. But before we go on working, please let us know by putting pluses or something indicating somehow that you can see or hear me well, for us to be very productive at our work. Please, okay, let us know if you can see us or hear us well, then we'll go on talking. Okay, thank you. Well, today we're going to talk about competence-based approach in language teaching, particularly in foreign language teaching, which is a trend in nowadays education. But before we start actually talking about it, I would like to point out that we're going to talk about competence and not competency, because those two words exist in the English language. Competence is what we're going to talk about, and it is the acquired knowledge and skills to attain a specific goal. And well, basically talking about the classroom, this is us teachers who have to give that knowledge and skills to students. What is the difference between traditional and competence-based approaches? The basic one is in the teaching goals. As you can see, that normally what we do now, we actually give our students a set of knowledge and skills about the language. For example, some grammar rules, some phonetic rules, some vocabulary. But this is not real language. This is knowledge about the language. Like, for example, I know how to make up a present perfect. And I see the main result is what? I know what present perfect or present simple is. And this is it. Can I use it? It's not, I'm not sure about it. What's the difference? The teaching goal for a competence-based classroom is that we use the language for solving a real-life, meaningful real-life problem. And in this respect, the idea is that we have to prepare our students to be able to do something, to perform some activity. And in this respect, not know what, but know how to do something. And as you can see, the learning process transforms into productive from reproductive, because whatever must be done productively, so students must produce something, which in turn requires more student autonomy and more independence. It means that students must, we know all that actually we all can produce something if we are independent. We cannot produce anything if we are commanded or demanded or whatsoever. And one more important thing about it is assessment. How to assess if it was successful or not. Basically, as you can see, as we all know, normally we have statistics. So like you have 12 sentences which you are to complete, for example, in a regular test. And if the student performs great, and if the student completes all the 12 sentences, then 1 point for each sentence, that's 12 points, that's it. basically that doesn't work in the competence-based approach, because here we have to assess students constantly, and which is most important, that it is not only us who have to assess students, but it is self-assessment and peer assessment as well. Let us, well, in this respect, so what is very important, that the accent is moved from teaching language skills, which are absolutely important, and you will see it later, but the accent is moved from teaching skills to teaching modes of communication. Here you can see 3 basic modes of communication that are accepted and that should be taught. And one of them is very common for us, but the idea is the interpersonal mode actually is the thing where we communicate with each other in a variety of ways, be it spoken language or written language, it doesn't actually matter. But the idea is, as you can see, that the participants should negotiate meaning. And in this respect, the role of the grammar or language correctness is not the of the priority. It's not the prior thing. It's basically something secondary. It's not primary, because we normally may negotiate meaning even if we make language mistakes. This is the key idea. Then meaning is what matters, not the language by which this meaning is delivered. The interpretive mode is something that we know very well. It refers normally to skills of reading and listening, so it's passive, reproductive skills. The idea to understand and interpret the meaning in a source of information. And the third one, which is not currently developed in this country, I would say, and I do believe that you will agree with me, the presentational mode is something that we don't pay much attention to, because it is something, as you can see, that a person produces for the audience, in front of the audience, and taking into consideration the impact that is supposed to be produced on the audience. This is something that we do not normally work with. Let's make some conclusions, preliminary conclusions. So, traditional approach works from acquired knowledge, like present perfect, and skills like listening, reading, speaking, and writing, to solving a communication problem. And we teach what? Which means that normally students do not very often understand what they should do and why they should do that. That means that there's a lack of communication motivation, low motivation, or no motivation to learn at all. Whereas in competence-based approach, the accent is moved from learning the language to solving a real-life problem. That is very important. This is the key idea of the competence-based approach. And for solving the problem, a student must acquire certain knowledge, certain skills, language, and not only language, certain knowledge and skills to to solve the problem, which brings very high motivation to complete the task, to learn. That is our idea, to learn and to teach how to learn. So have a look at this scheme, and to my mind, it shows very clearly how competence-based approach works. First, we set the real-life problem, and you see it's in the beginning, at the top. It is something that is critical, because the students must understand that it's something which is from real life, which they really may concern. And then we have to challenge our students by giving the task which is challenging, in fact, not language challenging, but challenging from the point of view of their personality, which in turn implies some personal motivation to perform the task. And it refers critical thinking, because whatever evaluation, whatever thing we do in our life refers to critical thinking. We compare, we contrast, we do something like that, we suggest, we argue, we ground our opinion. This is critical thinking. And from this we go on to production, because as you remember, what is very important, what is extremely important, is that students must always produce something. This is the key. And then if they produce something, then there is a solution to a real life problem. So how can we motivate our students? Because one of the things that you noticed was personal motivation. The most important thing to remember here is that the student is motivated only, and we all actually are motivated only, if there is something that refers to our personal background, experience, values and beliefs. Something that touches me personally, then I will do, then I will perform something. If it doesn't concern me, if I don't care, well, okay, how can I be productive? How can I wish to do something? And this is because we all actually are born to different backgrounds. We are born to different families. We all have different values. Some of us are rich, some of us are poor, some of us are religious, some of us are non-religious, some of us live in the city, some of us live in the country. So a lot of things that make us different from each other. And it implies that we all have our own opinions and our own values and beliefs that are based on our background. That is why to motivate a person, we have to address not a student, we have to address a person and motivate a person, not a student. Then the student will work, will perform something that we need. And this should be done through developing critical thinking, which is extremely important. So basically, there are two basic things, I would say, that are critically important for introducing and implementing competence-based approach in the classroom. They are personal motivation and critical thinking. You see, there's analyzing, comparing, contrasting, supporting and rejecting the ideas, and reasoning, which is very important. Reasoning or justifying. Now they say, I think so, but say why you think so. And the question arises immediately, can we provide competence-based learning in a real classroom? And I would like you to answer the question very briefly, very quickly and very briefly, because we have a very strict limit of time. So, can we provide competence-based learning in a real classroom? Imagine that you come to your classroom tomorrow morning and can we start working in a competence-based way? All right, you say yes. I would really be eager to know why you think so, because here I would say I'm not very much concerned with you, because see, we are bound, actually. Now we are bound. We are bound by the curriculum. We are bound by the lack of time, because most of us actually work in a secondary school, which implies 2 to 3 classes a week, which is not much. We are bound by the textbook, because we have to cover the textbook, and we have to be bound by skills, because every textbook, every program, every curriculum shows that we have to cover and to develop certain skills, both language skills and speech skills, like basic skills of reading, listening, speaking and writing, and some vocabulary skills, some language skills, I mean, like grammar, vocabulary and phonetics. So in this respect, how can we implement the competence-based approach in the classroom? Can we? No, we can't. I mean that we cannot implement it completely. That is impossible. But what is possible? How can we implement the elements of competence-based learning in the classroom? Like, we all know that we have some motivation, we have some critical thinking, we have some personal challenge, and we have some real-life tasks. All these we can perform. All these we can give our students. and have at least elements of critical thinking and competence-based approach implemented in our class. Why is it difficult? Because, to my mind, first we have to change our mind, ourselves. Not only us teachers, but the ministry and the programs must be a little bit changed, because they do not mean and they do not imply any real competence-based approach. And I do believe that if you have seen your program at least once, you will agree with me, because it is quite impossible to both cover the program, which is absolutely necessary, and we cannot put it in under doubt, and at the same time to implement the competence-based approach, which is, as you can see, very personal, because if we appeal to personality, then it should be very individualized. Okay, and here a little quiz, a blitz quiz, and the winner will receive a prize from our publishing group. So which of the teaching aims do you think is the most important one if we teach in a competence-based classroom? When we get ready for our class, when we're preparing for our class, which of the teaching aims will be the most important for us? Please give your answers, and the winner. Okay, so we see the first answer. Oh, I'm not sure I can see. Olena Zlup, yeah, okay, thank you. You are the winner. Now our manager will contact you. Please write your email to get your prize. Definitely. The main thing that we have to take into consideration while preparing for our class is practical, because here we should ask ourselves the question, what real-life activity our students will be able to perform by the end of the lesson? Well, will they be able to make a phone call? Will they be able to write a letter? Will they be able to write a note? Will they be able to do something real life? And then when we set our education, or our practical aim, we have to think what educational aims we have to put under it. And it means what language, knowledge, and skills do our students need to perform this particular task. Because for writing a letter and making a phone call, they will need something different. I think you agree with me. Yeah, for example, imagine that our students will order a pizza. I do love this example. We'll have to learn how to order a pizza by phone by the end of the lesson. What activities will they have to perform to make a phone order of pizza? First, they will have to learn where and how to find the information about the pizzeria or something. Yes, so it means information search both in the yellow pages and in the internet or somewhere else. So it is reading, it is scanning, and the skill of reading, scanning for the necessary information. You agree with me? Then they will have to make a phone call, which means they will have to dial the number, and they will have to be able to greet in an appropriate way. Then they will have to give their message, to deliver their message of what they want. And it means, in turn, it means that they will have to, if we are ordering pizza, we have to know a certain vocabulary for delivering a pizza, like pizza ingredients or something. And it means that we have to pre-teach the vocabulary and learn the vocabulary first before we actually perform the activity of making phone call. Then there will be a dialogue in which there will be discussion of the money, how much money to pay, the delivery, and this stuff. Okay, I'm not gonna stop anymore. I think you understand what I mean. So for performing quite a simple task like making a phone call, we have to acquire some necessary knowledge and skills. This is what is meant by competence-based approach. And again, the developing aims, what competences and skills must be developed in our students for performing those particular activities. like listening or speaking or reading. So what competences? And the upbringing, what personal traits must be developed, because we all are different. Some are shy, some are outgoing, some are active, some are passive. So what personal traits should be developed if we want our students to perform the activity of ordering a pizza by the phone? So this is something like that. And I greet our winner, and it is Olena Zub. Please write your email address so that we could contact you. And the winner gets the textbook by the publishing group Osnova, the textbook for the 8th year students. Why? The question may arise, why can you see the 2 textbooks over here? And I would answer that these are the examples of how we try to implement the competence-based approach in the textbook. Because, this transitory period before we actually move on to competence-based approach, there necessarily must be a period when we move from traditional-based approach to competence-based approach. And we definitely believe that there's some, because a textbook is something that will necessarily help you because you work with it every day. And we try to design the textbooks the way that actually will help to, this way, to move on from traditional to competence-based approach by creating a set of tasks, by formulating the task in the way that they will be productive, they will be student-centered, they will appeal to students' personality and background. And here I would like to offer some examples, some practical examples, some practical advice. First, we have to consider cognitive processes. I think you all know what you see, and this is the very well-known Bloom's taxonomy. That means that there are cognitive processes and they are different, and there is a certain gradual sequence of activities from the simplest cognitive process of remembering to the top of it, to creating. And what is necessary is that our students and we, together with them, move this way without missing some points and absolutely without changing some points. Like we cannot try to apply something before we remember something or before we understand something. This is something that I believe that you know very well. And let's have a look at some practical examples of how this can be introduced. What I would like to say, it is not necessarily that it can work only with this textbook or textbooks. Yes, those textbooks are designed this way. But think how you can change something in the existing textbooks by different authors, and you will see that sometimes it is just enough to change the task, how the task is formulated. Let's have a look. First, the first advice will be using practical real-life contexts, no abstract things. Real-life things, as you remember, it is something that is very critically important for competence-based approach. There must be something connected with real life directly, and the tasks must be challenging. Like you can see, the example is taken from the lesson that is dedicated to reading skills, developing reading skills. And what do we do at the beginning? Well, first we set the meaningful context, but just the title and the picture, the corresponding picture. We say no word, but we just buy the title, and it is a rhyming title, which is remembered better. And the picture, we set the idea of protecting the environment. The first thing which is necessary at every lesson is warming up. And we can do warming up in a variety of ways, as we all know. We can use whatever activities we wish. But what we suggest that even a warm-up may be done in a context, in a meaningful context. So, like, why not discuss it? Why not do it discussing the environment? Here you can see that it is a very productive thing just from the very first stage of the lesson. It is a very productive thing because there must be a rhyme. We give the word waste and the rhyming things, and for brighter students, they may offer their own words to rhyme with the word waste. For slower students, it is good if they write not 4 lines but 2 lines. The idea, it doesn't actually matter. The idea is that they have to produce something up to their level, and that is okay. They will warm up at the same time. They will warm up in a meaningful context, and they will produce something that will definitely bring some positive approach and positive things about the further activities. Okay, next, we develop critical thinking. You remember, this is something that is very important for competence-based approach. And how can it be developed? How can it be encouraged? By setting the task that requires one of the critical thinking processes, which are analyzing, comparing, contrasting, and the stuff. Exchanging, all those are critical thinking things. And we can take an existing task and we can just reshape it in a certain way and get the competence-based, the practical thing, like make our students use critical thinking skills. All right. Thank you. I see somebody cannot see the presentation. Well, then just listen, because you will be able to download whatever, the whole webinar, you will be able to download it later. I'm awfully sorry that you cannot see the presentation. But anyway, have a look, please, those who can see. The task is like critical thinking, sorting out the issues discussed in the lecture before. So what do? We activate the previous knowledge, something that they acquired before. We set up the area for meaningful research, because something should be done not just abstractly, but with a certain meaning, like decide which problems refer to global things, which problems refer to country problems or local problems, your neighborhood problems. And this is something that it encourages our students to exchange opinions. And please have a look at the next task, because you remember this is all about reading, so they will have to read somehow all this lesson. And the idea is, what do? The question is, do we agree or disagree? What do we appeal to by this question? We appeal to a personal opinion. And as you remember, people have different opinions. And what is very important, what is most important, critically important, is that the students have an opportunity to voice their opinion freely, even if the opinion does not correspond to what you personally as a teacher think. Here in this aspect, it is very important that the students speak, the students produce something, let it be their own opinion. It may be wrong, it doesn't actually matter, because the idea is that whatever language we use, it is the exchange of messages. This is important, exchange of meanings. We deliver our meaning, we get others' meaning, and this is okay. So this is our task. And we, again, we encourage critical thinking and interaction, because everything done should be discussed and should be brought up to some certain idea, some certain point. The situations that enhance interaction, that is something that I've just spoken about. Whatever, divide the class into groups, into pairs, whenever possible, bigger groups, smaller groups, let them have their opinion, let them discuss, let them shape their opinions, let them voice their opinions, let them argue. That is okay. And it is up to you as a teacher to decide what size the group should be. And which is very important, that the discussion should not be boiled down to just local or neighborhood problems. Try to teach our students how to think in a more global way, more holistically. Try to refer something from the present day, everyday, local problem to discuss, to compare how it corresponds to global problems, if any. And that will make the whole way of thinking more holistic. which is very important nowadays with the clip idea, that is a clip thinking that is very characteristic for our students. The next thing that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to show, oh, I'm sorry. So real-life samples and teaching materials, they're absolutely important. If we're talking about real-life activities, there should be real-life samples. All the texts used in the textbook are taken from the real British segment of the internet, of the British bloggers, British articles, and the stuff. They are, of course, they are adapted for the 9th graders, but the idea is that it is very real, and it refers to students to some very real life situation that is trash. The key idea is trash, litter, and how to cope with it. And as you see, the idea is to promote the relevant response in a meaningful context. So how do we get the idea of trash? How does it work? And later you can see, okay, the questions. Again, critical thinking. Again, interaction. Discuss what could be done. Then goes cross-cultural analysis. Do you think that Ukraine suffers from the same problems? And okay, and give the examples and discuss your ideas. So this is something that brings our students to talk, even if they don't actually want to do that. There's something that we try to do that appeals to their personality. And you can see here the sections like the Did You Know sections, which are placed in every lesson of the textbook, and they are, to our mind, they're critically important because they give some very useful facts or statistics from today's real life of the United Kingdom. And they are very easy because they are facts or statistics. They are very, very easy to compare with something in Ukraine, in the particular place in Ukraine, with a neighborhood. And they are a very good thing to discuss and to make some conclusions about. And the last thing, as you see, the last task is supposed to be the homework. And here it is something that encourages setting goals, which is a very, very useful skill to do, to set the goals, to find the information, to plan the action, to organize the ideas, to organize the information. And again, there is an appeal to personal background because the idea is a person who lives in a private cottage will possibly write a little bit different thing from the person who lives in a block of flats, for example. I think you agree. And again, the cross-cultural approach, compare your place with a different place, the same place overseas in Britain or maybe in the United States, whatsoever. And it all includes critical thinking and interaction. That is absolutely necessary. Next, what we can do. We can foster autonomous learning by our students. It is very difficult, but there are a few learning strategies. You can easily find them on the internet, the learning strategies which are to use, and they refer more to learning the vocabulary in a smart way, because now technologically, I mean with the use of internet, with the use of video clips or whatsoever, smartphones, the ability to discuss something on the net, to talk to other people overseas of different cultures using the foreign language. This is something that first. But the most important thing about here, these learning strategies, is the ability to make mistakes. And this is something that should probably be taught and that should be spoken about every single class. Because everyone makes mistakes, and a lot of our students, and we know that a lot of our students are just afraid of speaking because they're afraid of making mistakes. And it is very normal to teach them, to let them understand, to make them understand that everyone makes mistakes, and that is quite normal in a process of doing anything, and especially in the process of learning. And the teacher's role in this respect should be moved and should be changed from the person who directs the process from the, I would say, the produces the process, not the producer, not the director, but the facilitator. So we step a little bit aside and we just let our students do whatever they do. You remember, the creativity is impossible and productivity is impossible if it is directed. And our students work autonomously, work independently, they produce something, and we consult, we help, we mentor, but we do not interfere. And the motivation for this, of course, is very important. And the last thing about this is that assessment should be used not of learning, but for learning. Let's try and think in this respect, because it is something that sounds very nice, but what is it in fact? In fact, it means that first we should try to assess our students not from the point of view what they don't know, but from the point of view what they do know. And the difference, actually, information-wise, that will be the same. Yeah? If they write 12 sentences and they make 3 mistakes, there will be 3 mistakes anyway. But we can say, okay, guy, you have made 3 mistakes. You have to correct yourself and do something about it. Or we can say, oh, guy, you made 9 correct answers. And think what you could do to make them 12 out of 12. The information is the same, but the approaches are a little bit different. In this respect, self and peer assessment become of a very important, a practical, critical role, because you all know, and you will agree with me, the children very often, maybe even most often, they believe what their peers think about them, and they believe the opinion and the decisions of the peers rather than the decisions of the adults. And that is why it may work very well if they check the work from each other, and then it will bring up the ability to check oneself and to understand what the success is and what the faults are and how the faults can be corrected. Oh, thank you very much. I was very glad to see you today, to meet with you today. There will be one more webinar on the topic, and it's going to happen, if I'm not mistaken, on the 19th of April. I think that will be the last one for this course. And if you have any questions, you can address the questions by any way that that you wish, that is convenient to you. You may make a phone call, or you may write. Or okay, that was very great to see you today, and to see your answers and to see your reaction. Thank you very much, and goodbye.